This is Capitol View.
And good Sunday morning to you. Welcome into Capitol View. I'm Jay Bir. Well, it was a big week on the Hill. The president delivered his State of the Union, and the Senate voted to acquit him on impeachment charges. And the Iowa results finally are in. Representative Bruce Westerman joins us now from Washington, D.C. to react to what is a fairly eventful week. Bruce, we appreciate you coming on with us this morning.
Hey, good to be with you, Jay. Yeah, you don't see too many weeks like this in Congress where you have a State of the Union, the voting on either conviction or acquittal, and then we had the National Prayer Breakfast on Thursday. So a lot of stuff happening in D.C. in 1 week.
Absolutely. Let's get to the State of the Union here. I want to kind of get your opinion. What did you think of what President Trump had to say? And then we're going to get to some of the extracurricular and after that. But what did you think he had to say? It kind of rallied the base, it felt like.
I think he did a great job of laying out what's been accomplished in the first part of his administration. Really hammered on the economic side of things, the low unemployment rates, which we're seeing that at home in Arkansas. He broke that down into unemployment rates for minorities, unemployment rates for women, and I think something that he brought out that we probably haven't paid enough attention to is how many people have gone from welfare to work. And this goes back to something that one of my favorite presidents, Ronald Reagan, used to say, that the best social welfare program ever invented is a job. And that's what we've seen in this administration. And with the work that we were able to do in the last Congress, is we've seen a tremendous job growth. We've seen economic growth, and now we're looking at these trade deals that are being finalized, and I think it's a very bright future moving forward. I thought the president did a great job of recapping the accomplishments, but he also laid out some vision for the future, and then he mixed in the stories that kind of drove some of these issues home. Some things that really tugged at your heartstrings, the Tuskegee Airmen and his great-grandson that were there, the sergeant who was reunited with his wife and daughters there in the House chamber. So it was, I thought it was a good State of the Union that accomplished the purpose of what the State of the Union is supposed to do.
Absolutely. Here, let's get to some of the other things that happened there at the State of the Union. I guess, what was your take with Nancy Pelosi? I mean, obviously a lot has been made of her tearing the speech after the fact. What were your thoughts, and kind of what have some of your colleagues said?
Well, I was in the chamber and actually didn't see her tear the speech up. I wasn't focused too much on Speaker Pelosi sitting there behind the president.
Sure.
And I didn't even see what had happened until after the fact. But I did hear a lot of members talking about it as I was leaving the chamber. And it was pretty offensive to people who saw it live. And, people are raising the question now, and I've talked to some of my colleagues who are constitutional lawyers, and they said that that document is an historical document that belongs to the House. It was one that the president had personally signed. And there's actually can be felony charges for destroying historical documents. And I haven't researched this, but just what I'm hearing from my colleagues is there could be a strong case that she could be guilty of a felony and prevented from serving in office. But, probably won't come to that. But it was childish is the only thing I could say about acting like that. But it is what it is, and the president dishes it out too. The next morning at the prayer breakfast. The prayer breakfast isn't really the place you want to take a victory lap. He had the meeting over at the White House where he could do what he did. But I wish he hadn't have come to the prayer breakfast and held up the newspaper article saying acquitted, and it goes both ways. But I'm glad to see that impeachment for now is over with. Hopefully we can move on to other business. Another thing from the State of the Union that I'm excited about, the president talked about some of the environmental stewardship initiatives that we're going to be working on, and he mentioned the Trillion Trees Act, and that's a bill that I'm actually drafting. I've been working on it for months, and we hope to get it filed this next week.
Yeah, kind of get into that a little bit. I know that's something we wanted to kind of touch on here. What are we looking at with the Trillion Trees Act here? Trillions a big number, no matter how you slice it.
It's a huge number. You know, we think of our national debt in terms of trillions, but this is based on a research report that came out from Switzerland that said that if we planted 1 trillion trees across the globe, we could remove 205 gigatons of carbon. And to put that in perspective, that's 2/3 of the carbon, the man-made carbon that's been produced since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. President Trump was in Davos a few weeks back, and he announced that the U.S. was going to join this Global Trillion Trees initiative. We've been working on the legislation, and I'm really excited about filing that. It's, you know, I'm a forester by education. Yeah. I'm the only one in the House and the only licensed forester in Congress. But you know, this is something that comes natural in Arkansas. You know, the natural state. We've got beautiful forest. We've got productive forest, and Arkansas is really a leader in this area. And trees are the natural carbon eater. They pull carbon dioxide out of the air, release oxygen back, and store the carbon in the wood. Teddy Roosevelt called them the lungs of the earth, and that's a very accurate description. And we're seeing, you know, not just in the forestry part, but in the forest products part of it. Walmart announced this new corporate headquarters that they said will be built out of Arkansas timber. They've already been announced a new, call it mass timber, cross-laminated timber construction facility there in Conway. And, you know, great things are happening in Arkansas. The largest wooden structures in the country right now are the 2 new 5-story wooden dormitories on the campus of the University of Arkansas. So I'm excited because Arkansas is already a leader in this, and it's not just a national thing that we're working with here. It's literally a global initiative to plant more trees, to grow more wood on the land that we have, and to use that wood as a natural carbon sink. And there's a ton of research that supports what we're doing on this, and I think it should be a bipartisan issue that a lot of people can get behind.
Well, we certainly will keep up with that one for sure here. Please keep us updated on this one. And again, Representative Westerman, we appreciate you coming on this morning. You gave me a chance to breathe here because you are definitely not a man of few words, so we appreciate the time.
Well, it's good to be with you, Jay, and wish you the best.
All right. We'll do it again soon, boss.
All right.
All right, Representative Bruce Westerman. Well, former governors make a trip to the capital city to celebrate the governor's mansion turning 70. Coming up after a quick break, we take a step back in history and a look at the top political stories. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
It's Free Furnace February at B.R. McGinty. Stay warm. During February, get a free furnace with your purchase of a qualifying outdoor system. Plus, get 0% financing. Call B.R. McGinty today.
B.R. McGinty, yeah. Are you paying too much for your health insurance? Just this year, the United States Tax Cuts and Jobs Act became official, and health insurance laws have changed. If you have Obamacare, are uninsured, or struggling to afford your current health insurance, this could impact you. Call the number on your screen right now to find out how. It's free. New affordable health insurance, as well as dental coverage, is now available with low copays and deductibles and guaranteed coverage. Top quality health coverage at the lowest prices anywhere. The Affordable Health Insurance Hotline is now accepting calls. Call today. It's free. You may have insufficient coverage or may be significantly overpaying and not even realize it. If you're uninsured or unable to pay for health coverage, make this important call now. It's free. Find out if you qualify for health care, dental coverage, and more. That can start immediately. Get all the benefits that you're eligible for.
Call 1-800-735-8128. That's 1-800-735-8128.
The Reiser Auto Group is proud to introduce the newest member of the Reiser family, a dealership with over 250 vehicles to choose from, a name that has been serving Hot Springs for nearly 2 decades, a reputation 9 out of 10 customers recommend. Reiser, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Check out ReiserDodge.com when shopping for your next vehicle. And always, remember Reiser. Enjoy the show.
Are you looking for something new or exciting to do?
Maybe a delicious twist.
Oh, it sounds good. You have to join us for DJ and Heather's Bucket List.
Yes, because we're going to have all the must-haves around Central Arkansas.
DJ and Heather's Bucket List on KARK4 today. You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back into Capitol View. 70 years ago, the Arkansas governor's mansion became a reality. At this time in 1950, the Korean War had not even begun. Johnny Cash was just 18 years old, hadn't even released a record yet. Gas, 17 cents a gallon, and minimum wage, just 70 cents an hour. And while a lot has changed since then, a lot has stayed the same. I caught up with three previous governors, Jim Guy Tucker, Mike Beebe, and Mike Huckabee, also current Governor Asa Hutchinson, at the celebration from the 70th birthday of the governor's mansion. In 1944, Agnes Shin was the president of the Arkansas Federation of Women's Clubs and was embarrassed that Arkansas did not have a place that dignitaries could visit. So she started a campaign for one, and it was in 1947 that the General Assembly created the Governor's Mansion Commission and pledged $100,000 towards its construction.
I mean, only 46 people have had the privilege of serving as governor of this great state. And part of the joy since Governor McMath has been to live in the official residence.
Today, it was a gathering of Arkansas royalty to celebrate Arkansas's palace.
There are many memories that are created here, from the first day here in the mansion to the times that you have an open house, to the different events, and the look of the child that comes in here for the first time and sees what the people's house looks at. It is warming to your heart.
Created memories for not just these families, but for countless other people.
The mansion has changed over time, most notably during the Huckabee era, when the Grand Hall was added on and the extra living arrangements were needed during renovations.
So we famously moved into a triple-wide mobile home on the grounds of the governor's mansion. We actually love the triple-wide. It was the closest thing to normal life that a person has.
It's those normal memories and little additions that each governor has added over time that they all hope are part of the living history of the governor's mansion.
It is a legacy that all of us share, but that we pass on to future generations, so that every family that lives here will understand the importance and the significance of the history and the importance of this place.
Former Governor and President Bill Clinton could not make it to the celebration, but did say in a statement, quote, "It was an honor for our family to live in the mansion for 12 of those 70 years, and I am very grateful to all the people who work there and to our neighbors for making it a great place to live and a great place for Chelsea to grow up." Another fun fact of the mansion is when McMath did move in, the mansion was open to the public. 180,000 people toured through the governor's mansion that first week. The January jobs report is in. The economy added 225,000 jobs last month. According to the latest batch of job numbers, the unemployment rate ticked just a tad higher to 3.6%. Experts say that's still the lowest in 5 decades. The Joe Biden campaign was supposed to be kicking off in Little Rock Thursday night, but some of the team hit some turbulence. Biden's wife, Dr. Jill Biden, along with campaign endorsers, were scheduled to meet with Arkansans on Thursday, but never made it. Campaign representatives said her plane was unable to land for several hours due to weather problems. We did try to get a comment from Jill at a separate fundraiser, but were actually denied the opportunity to do so. Meanwhile, Representative Jamie Schott, Senator Linda Chesterfield, and House Minority Leader Frederick Love talked about why they are endorsing Biden.
I believe that Mr. Biden and Mrs. Biden and Dr. Biden are known for their truthfulness. I think they are known for their compassion. I think that they will engage in positive conversation rather than trying to destroy those with whom they have disagreements.
Biden is one in a long list of Democratic candidates that will be on the ballot coming up in March. And hopefully it will go on without a hitch here in Arkansas as a primary. The results from the Iowa Caucus now showing a virtual tie between Mayor Pete Buttigieg and Senator Bernie Sanders. The chairman of the National Democratic Party is calling for a recanvass. CNN's Ryan Noble has the latest.
It is the caucus count that just won't end.
Iowa, you have shocked the nation.
After 3 days of counting, the Iowa Democratic Party is facing a new challenge. Tom Perez, the chair of the Democratic National Committee, tweeting, quote, "Enough is enough. I'm calling on the Iowa Democratic Party to immediately begin a recanvass." His request comes as the current results show a razor-thin margin in the state delegate equivalents between Pete Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders. The IDP responded to Perez, saying it would require an official request from a campaign to begin the recanvass process, something that at this point has not happened. Still, the ambiguity in Iowa has not stopped both Buttigieg.
We are going on to New Hampshire victorious.
And now Sanders from declaring victory.
In terms of the popular vote, we want a decisive victory.
But the rules of the Iowa caucuses make it clear the winner is determined by the state delegate equivalents, not the popular vote. Still, for Sanders, win, lose, or draw, he's ready to put Iowa in the rearview mirror. His campaign announced a massive $25 million fundraising haul in January, his best of the campaign. And he's invested more than $5 million in new ads. He's now putting all his energy and focus into New Hampshire.
Do you think it's time to start having the conversation about New Hampshire and these states?
Yeah, I think so, given the fact that we're in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Right.
Yeah, so that is what we are. We're working really hard.
And the race here has begun in earnest.
He calls him, I don't criticize him, he calls himself a democratic socialist. Well, we're already seeing what Donald Trump is going to do with that.
With former Vice President Joe Biden coming off a disappointing showing in Iowa, calling out both Sanders and Buttigieg by name.
I believe in raising the minimum wage to a living wage. I believe in health care for all. You want to call that socialism? That is socialism for working people. That is the fundamental difference between Trump and me.
Candidates are busy focusing on the next primaries, including New Hampshire, which is up this week. And according to Real Clear Politics, Sanders leading the polls in New Hampshire, followed closely by Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, and Joe Biden tied for the third spot. In Nevada, Biden takes the lead, followed by Bernie Sanders and Warren. Tom Steyer actually making a showing in the top four. The New Hampshire primary is set for February 11th. The Nevada caucus is set for February 22nd. When we come back, Chuck Todd with Meet the Press joins us to break down this fairly historic week. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
Memories begin with a gift from Keepsakes. Your wedding rings will showcase your love and devotion. We take pride in personally selecting your diamonds direct from Antwerp, Belgium, home of the best diamonds in the world. For the best quality and prices, buy your diamonds from Keepsakes.
Okay, so this gal comes in. She's in tears when she walked in the door. She tells me, I've got a trip coming up. I'm going to Turkey. I'm going to be walking and walking and walking, and I can't walk, and I don't know what to do, so help me. And I helped her. She called me a couple of weeks ago. She had the time of her life, virtually pain-free, and I had saved her life in her mind.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
Are you getting the most out of your Medicare plan? Are you sure? Many people with Medicare are eligible for plans that include extra benefits in addition to those found in original Medicare. Benefits like dental, vision, and prescription drug coverage. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll. The consultation is free with no obligation to enroll. In addition to hospital and medical coverage, at no extra cost, you could also get coverage for prescription drugs, dental, hearing, vision, and more. In many areas, plans with benefits are available with $0 copays for many services, $0 monthly premiums, or $0 deductibles. That's hospital, medical, prescription drug, dental coverage, and more, included in one plan with premiums that may be as low as $0 a month. Call now to see if you're eligible to enroll. The consultation is free and there's no obligation to enroll.
Call 1-800-571-8580. That's 1-800-571-8580.
The President's Day Super Sale at Furniture Row is on now, and you don't want to miss it. Shop today and find amazing deals store-wide on dining, living, bedroom, and mattresses. And best of all, the more you buy, the more you save. Save $100 on every $1,000 you spend. Or score a free patio set when you spend $29.99 or more. Plus, 7 years no-interest financing. The President's Day Super Sale, only at Furniture Row.
Magic always happens with a gift from Keepsakes. Our stunning line of Philip Gabriel, the fastest growing designer line in America, is sure to make the perfect gift. Crafted in Italy and made to share with generations to come, Philip Gabriel's now on sale. Only $249 at Keepsakes Jewelry in Whitehall.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And welcome back into Capitol View. Well, this is just a bonkers week in the country here. A lot to get to here. Let's just go ahead and bring in our good friend of the show here, Chuck Todd here. And Chuck, I mean, I'm not even sure where to really begin here. So I guess let's just start with the things that were the big talkers here. Not so much maybe the State of the Union address, but it was just all the extracurricular that kind of went into that. I guess what was your take on that, really on both sides, because nobody was really innocent in this.
No, but in some ways it felt, here's the weird thing about it. If I'd been in a coma the last 4 years, I'd have been shocked. Oh my God, this looks like the WWE, right? It felt like the ending to a WrestleMania, right? You know, the match is over and all of a sudden, you know, the paper gets torn up and you're like, what is going on? But having covered this Capitol in the Trump era of the last 4 years and watching how everybody reacts to Trump and was it really that surprising? And that's the point I would try to make. I think in a weird way, it was a shocking display, and yet it feels very normal for the weird times and the polarized times that we live. Here's all you need to understand about it. It means we're not seeing any legislation. You're not going to see prescription drugs taken care of this year. You know, I mean, it's hard enough to get Congress to work with each other in an election year, but try this Congress, try these two parties as they stand today, the lack of trust between the two leaders. So it's what you saw was, to me, the explanation for later this year when you asked me, we going to get anything done this year? And I'm going to say, nope.
It seems like that's sort of the annual debate. Are we actually going to see things get done this year? And I guess when it comes to getting things done, I know we talked a little bit about it last week, but now that we've got an impeachment acquittal, are we to the point, or does it feel like up there that maybe now things can sort of get back to what little business they can actually get to?
Look, there's two things on paper that there is bipartisan work going on right now, and it's figuring out a way to tackle the lowering of prescription drug prices, which, look, rhetorically there's agreement, but actually trying to come up with legislation, it's actually quite difficult. And then some form of infrastructure spending. But here's the reality. They're both hot election topics. Neither party wants to give the other a, quote, win. We're in one of these bad situations where I think there is just no interest in compromising, because neither side thinks compromising benefits them so much that it's better that it'll overcome the benefits on the other side. And sadly, the voters aren't rewarding compromise. Both parties' bases will punish you if you compromise right now in our current political system. So there's no incentive to work together in the voting front, and I don't think there's an appetite in Washington right now from the leadership to work together.
And kind of switching gears here to Iowa now. We've seen some issues with the Iowa caucuses in the past, but this one seemed just unprecedented and really kind of almost kills the Democrats to a certain degree.
Well, there's a reason it's unprecedented, because look, the Democrats did it to themselves. Basically, Bernie Sanders' campaign 4 years ago always felt like it got robbed in Iowa. Yeah. So this year they demanded that Iowa report multiple results rather than just the one result that these caucus precinct chairs have been used to doing for decades. And you know what? It turned out the system couldn't handle it. But Iowa was so afraid of saying no to the Democratic Party nationally, who wanted, there's a lot of movement to get rid of the caucuses, that they basically agreed to do things they couldn't pull off. This is now the third straight set of caucuses, the Republicans in 12, the Democrats in 16, and this time, where there's no clear winner, and multiple people declared victory, just like we saw this time. So I think the caucuses are dead on both sides of the aisle. That's one thing. But I also think they still did what they normally do, which is it sorted the field. And guess what? Pete Buttigieg got a bounce out of Iowa, because he's now in the top 2 in New Hampshire, and it looks like we have a two-way race to see who moves on to the next one. Obviously, Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren would like to change that trajectory, but it looks like Iowa did do that.
All right, well, it's going to be fascinating to watch. We'll get your take when it comes to New Hampshire. Hopefully the results will roll in the way we know they can. Chuck, we appreciate the time.
I think there'll be a normal results this time.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Chuck.
All right, brother.
All right.
Thanks.
We're back to wrap it up after this. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning.
to see that.
The Got Talent Finals, Monday on NBC.
I have to save the passengers. I have to cure the death date. I have to test on myself.
Something, wait!
Did we crash?
Hello, I'm Mike Rainwater, and I applaud the efforts of KARK and Fox 16 taking a stand to create a safer Central Arkansas through their Victory Over Violence campaign. At Rainwater, Holt & Sexton, we do our part, so each month we feature a difference maker. We give $1,000 to a group or organization that truly makes an impact on the lives of others. It'll take all of us to declare victory over violence.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
And that will wrap it up for this week's show. Remember, we are back here all new next week with a new episode of Capitol View. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.